These days we have to say that now we are live, we are live, we are live, Don't do anything that you should not be doing in front of the camera. And now there are banners. Ta-da! No one is singing a song.
Do 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 do.
Do, 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 do.
Do do do.
Do, do, do.
I was singing, but I found out I was on mute. So
Welcome everyone. Welcome. And we can wait for 30 seconds for people to join, or we can, just get started and let people join in as they come. So obviously, we have been discussing this a lot at Empowered Women, and hearing a lot from a lot of women and men that I don't care about politics. Don't talk to me about politics. Why? It's in we on personal level. I do feel it's not cool to say that, but I did want to hear about everyone else's opinions on whether we should care about politics or not. And that's why I brought all the awesome and smart women that I know. And this is how we are going to start. I have one question for all of you, which is, one, do you care about politics? And two, why do you care or not care about politics? So is there someone really wanting to go first?
I can go first.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Shamla.
Hi, I'm Shamala. Hello. And I say, yes, absolutely, we need to care about politics. Not only do we need to care about politics, we need to talk about politics. I know that in our society, there's that saying, don't talk about money or politics with friends. But I feel like that is just a tool for voter disenfranchisement. And I don't believe that is what we should be doing. The current political climate and the current situation with the pandemic, especially, are the greatest indicators for why everyone should care about politics and be engaged in politics as much as they can, from the lowest state levels all the way up to the federal level. It's because that is what decides everything about our society. Everything from the not just laws, but policies, especially like public health policies. We're all experiencing firsthand what happens when there is a pandemic or a national emergency. And the people that we have voted into office are the ones who manage those situations. And if we do not like how it's managed, the best way to fix that is through voting, through politics. And it's everything from social justice, all the social justice issues that have become very prominent recently. The key to a lot of the solutions for social justice are through politics, through voting, through who we choose to represent us and how they advocate for us. So I absolutely believe it is very, very important.
Thank you for that, Shamla. Who next? Yas?
sure, I'll jump in. I agree 100% with what Shamala mentioned, and I think this conversation about politics tends to turn some folks off because we think about the candidates and what they say in negative ads. When I think about politics, it's about taking care of my community and taking care of the people that I love in my community. And today my community might be the 10 blocks around my house, but this afternoon it might be on a federal level, one of my friends worried about securing healthcare for an ailing parent. And so politics has been the way that we take care of our communities amongst many other ways, but it's really seeing the impact of what policies at the national and the state level can do is extremely important. I became a citizen in 2005, and so gaining that right, having to work to be able to vote and be able to be involved was, I think, a part of my journey incredibly impactful because it was something that I didn't have, that I resided here and didn't have the ability to really impact that one person, one vote process that we talk about. in 2009, my family went through a crisis of sorts, and we reached out to our elected leaders to help. From the local level, we had so much support, and we went all the way up to our Senate, our senators, our two senators, and we had incredibly different responses from our two senators. And I remember feeling in that moment like, I voted for both of you. You know, your jobs are the same. I am your constituent for the same, but the reaction from both of their offices was so entirely different that it made me realize, you know, you have to speak up. You have to be a part of this system that is going to work for you or against you, either way. So you might as well speak up and take care of the people in your community.
Thank you for that, Yas. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with someone who has been a caregiver to their husband for a long time, and it did make me realize how important the social support from the infrastructure is.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we can talk about it in detail, but before that, Himakshi.
Yeah. So I think I completely agree with what Shamla and Yas said. And before answering whether politics, do I care about it or not, I want to talk about what does politics mean to me. And I think usually politics is equal to voting is equal to democracy. We don't think beyond that. But to me, politics is political act, right? Us talking about society, us discussing the society and taking decisions about society is a political action. So how we talk about patriarchy is political. How we engage in the system of marriage is political. Like from what we think of as personal to something like electing a president, which the US is in the process of doing. Everything is political. And I think we need to really embrace that and think of it in positive light so that we're not coloring it with one color. So I think I deeply care about politics. In addition to what both Shamla and Yas have said, I think to me, when I look at history, some of the most important decisions in history have been taken by political leaders, whether it was ending slavery or what Mandela did or what Gandhi did for the country or what Jacinda is doing in New Zealand right now. All of it is political, and all of the most important decisions are taken by elected leaders. And so to say that it doesn't affect me or I don't care, I would say is naive in some ways.
Yep. That's you gave a really good line to explain that simply, that most important decisions have been made by people who we elect. It's pretty simple, but I think that's why it's so important, because it's simple and you can explain it in simple words to someone else. Carolina.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. With what everybody said. The way that I think about it is very similar, that politics is not something separate from us. It's just simply the way that we have of organizing ourselves in a society and living together. And so everything, like you said, everything is politics. Everything that we do is involved in that. But I think that one of the issues is that it's really easy for us to separate ourselves from that fact. And there are so many factors that stop us from being able to engage in it, and emotional factors, social factors. And I think those are the ones that we really need to talk about and address in order to create strategies to tackle those obstacles so that we are able to remain engaged as much as possible. Especially in like the area that we live in right now, it's even easier, I think, to be disconnected from it because federal politicians and everybody, they're always on the news, and it becomes almost like a spectacle. And so it's easy to see it as even like celebrity culture, right? Like it's easy to see it as something completely separate from what's going on in our lives. And so one way to kind of challenge that aspect of it is to be involved more in local politics, and that helps you understand that these people actually work for you and they're there representing you and they're making decisions on your behalf, and how important that is to be involved and be aware of all of it.
Yeah. That's such a great point. And we are paying their salaries. Like, we are paying such huge taxes to pay for their salaries. And would you have an employee that you don't care about? Like, would you just pay someone a huge salary and say that, oh, I don't care about whether you work or you don't work, or whether, you are a nice person or not? And thank you for that. Now I am, obviously now we are in the part of open discussion where I want to get us started with one question. And the question is about something that has been helping me. About Yas is going to tell us about how can you make politics little less stressful, because we are going through such a stressful period in politics, and I actually dread watching something like a debate. And something in my life makes it easy for me. And Yas is going to tell us about that. And then I will add to my experience as someone who is being benefited by that.
Well, no pressure here. So I tell my close friends that my dream job is to be an anger translator, which if any of you have seen the Key and Peele sketch where Luther was President Obama's anger translator. And so this is like, if I had a career I could kind of carve out of stone, this is what I would do. But I struggled with feeling, kind of like this hypocrisy was happening on stage, and these statements were being said and feeling like they were so far from what I had wanted out of a leader, on both sides, right? Both Republican and Democratic. And so it started off really as me commenting on Facebook in real time on the debates, just sort of these thoughts in my head that I knew would never really make it to like the New York Times publication or any other journalistic piece of value, but there were still these thoughts that I had in my head, and just started typing them out on my Facebook feed. With the 2016 election, it sort of snowballed because I just could not believe the things that were being said in front of my eyes, right? And I had this candidate who I thought was really strong and really believed in her, and then I had this other candidate who I just couldn't believe what was happening in front of my eyes, and so started this Facebook feed to try to not really. It was a way to not disengage, for me to have a place to put those emotions and those thoughts that I was feeling, and knowing that not everyone was going to feel the same way, certainly, but at least we could start the conversation, and then started getting some feedback of folks saying, I feel the same way, or I'm reading this stream after the debates and being able to catch up on your stream, and then I like match it with an actual news article and able to sort of feel it. And I think when you look at those politicians who are kind of lightning rods in our communities and in our national landscape, they're people who oftentimes can have these really real conversations with their constituents. And so I kind of was like, okay, well, let's try that online, and see what happens and see what people are feeling. I really enjoy the dialogue that happens after a comment is made, and people sort of going back and forth. And also, I think it serves for me, especially, to understand where everyone else is in the landscape of it all. But those standard issue, traditional pieces of our election process, they can feel really stale and they can feel really old. And like, sometimes I'm like, it could very well be like Jefferson and Aaron Burr up there for all I know. Like, it just feels antiquated. And so this felt like a way to make it relatable, to me in some capacity. And so I joke that now it's kind of become a sport in my house. Like when it's debate night, I get all these messages of like, are you going to be online commenting? And I think the greatest part of that is that we're all paying attention. And so if it's a funny comment that gets you to really think about what the candidate is saying, or if it's a funny comment or, a passive aggressive comment, quite frankly, that gets you to say, oh, hey, the debate was last night, I should pay attention. I think that's a win, right? Because I think, Carolina, you mentioned it before. It's so easy just to put it down and put it away because it just feels sometimes so far out of your reach and out of your control, and you feel helpless. And this really started off as a way to try to combat that.
Yeah. And thank you for that. So because I am one of the people who is benefited because of Yas's commentary, it just makes everything palatable. And it makes things less stressful. And so you don't shut them off. And I see that as a great way to get people involved in a conversation and to have conversation with friends also, because, that makes us so in case, because we said so many things about it, if you have missed out on it. So Yas gives real-time commentary, sometimes funny, sometimes sarcastic, sometimes serious, about debate, all important political debates. And her friends like me, we look forward to those commentary. And because we want to be part of that game, we have to watch the debate also, which otherwise we would have said that, oh no, I won't be able to take it, I just don't want to watch it. She makes it easy for us to watch it. Let's go to the serious side of this, and which is, I want to hear from Himakshi about how you can take it a level up. We have someone else awesome joining us. Hey Katie, thank you for
Hi
me.
everyone. Sorry that I'm late. I'm popping in for a little 15 minutes in the middle of my workday, but I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. We just discussed something really exciting with exciting and funny part of how you can get involved by reducing the stress of politics. And now we are moving to the deeper involvement, because politics is not just about politics. It's about everything in our lives and how we can do more than what we are doing. And Himakshi is going to answer that one.
I may take 2 minutes to explain this. Like I was sharing, for me, politics is much beyond representation, and representation is an important part. So we try to codify politics in 3 ways. The first is politics of representation. The second is politics of organizing. So like people who pick up issues, organize people around it, and make something happen for that local community. May never need to make it to a news channel, but it really matters to that community. And some issues like Me Too or Black Lives Matter do make it to a national platform, on an international platform, as they should. And the third is politics of ideas. And these are ideas which shift the way either a generation or a country really thinks about politics. So what I'm trying to do, it's called Indian School of Democracy, and we nurture young people to get into politics. And for me, to answer Purnima's question about how do we take it a notch higher or a step deeper, is to actually get involved, get the tools to actually learn the tools to get involved. So just like I trained to be a teacher, we train to be managers. Why can't we train to be public servants and politicians? And I think that's really, really important. And this may happen at different points. It may happen to different people. But if we really focus on getting the best hearts and minds of the country and the world into public service, we're really investing in the future of the country. And all of us may play different roles. Today, I'm setting up an institute. Someone is funding it. Someone is participating in it. But I really think the best hearts and minds of the country need to be in public service. So yeah. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. And what I wanted to show is, I wanted to show a spectrum. I wanted to show that, it's not that it's not, the deepest involvement is you run for an office and you become a politician. As an educated and informed person, you shouldn't feel that you have to stay away from politics. And then there is another end of the spectrum, which is, like, be part of a discussion, be aware of what is happening around you, how it is affecting you. And then what Carolina said, it's like, you can, if you get involved at your local level, then you can physically see how it is affecting you. I'm going to give a moment to, not a moment, actually, it's 2 whole minutes to Katie to talk about if she cares about politics and why. And then I have a question for Shamla.
Okay. Do I care about politics? Well, I would say I do care in my own way, but I'm not as overt about it as others are. So I do have my own political perspectives and take a stance on things that I feel are really important to me. One of which is empowering women. But other causes that I'm not as involved in, I would say I do have opinions on them, but I'm one of those people that keeps my opinions more to myself. So when I encounter someone that I don't necessarily agree with their beliefs, I may address that in a respectful manner if I feel that it's necessary, but I'm not going to get into a very energetic or charged argument with them, because I also really want to respect other people's beliefs, and I think everyone's beliefs are their own. So I would say that's my political stance.
Thank you for sharing, Katie. And this is such a good segue for me for my question to Shamla, which is, she does that exact thing, but she does it in a very passionate way. Like she has her views, she has her opinions, she does listen to other people, but she is never ever shy. Or I don't know if you hold back, Shamla, ever, because I wouldn't know about things that you don't talk about. So, but she makes herself heard, and that's what creates a room for her to listen to other people. And I'm so sorry.
No, because I believe so much that discussion is so important about so many ideas, and a lot of I feel like a lot of issues, especially social issues we have, stem from lack of exposure, lack of representation, lack of interaction. You don't see each other's viewpoints, you don't experience life with other people. Those sort of things can lead to a limited mindset rather than a growth mindset. So I feel like discussion is extremely important, and it's also important because Carolina, you touched on how the politics, it's kind of like politicians are like celebrities now, and it's I feel like we've sort of merged the world of reality television and our YouTube and all of those sort of things, how we have this voyeuristic entertainment now, and we've sort of merged that with the world of politics, and it's definitely affected the way that politicians behave and that people engage in politics. So and that has also, I feel, infected our media outlets. So you do get some sort of, so it's difficult to know where to find information now. So you have a lot of media bias, a lot of people refer to the bubbles, and people tend to stay within their bubbles a lot of the time. And the only way to really fight against that is to talk to other people, to talk to people who have differing opinions, who might come from who tend to, like, if I tend to rely on MSNBC or CNN, it's good to talk to someone who relies on Fox News, for example, to try to glean the truth that's underneath the bias, if that makes sense. Because misinformation and disinformation are probably some of the biggest dangers to our entire democratic system right now, in my opinion. That and voter disenfranchisement. But so it's I feel like it's very important to be talking and to have to express your opinions, to engage in discussion, and definitely to try, like Katie, like you were saying, try to be respectful of each other in that process. As soon as people get passionate and heated, I am guilty of that. Sometimes I get passionate, but I try to step back, check myself before you become disrespectful, and before you start using derogatory terms. I've had them said to me before, and you kind of have to just brush it off when that does happen. But it's very, very important to listen to other people's opinions and to express yourself to them, because sometimes, yes, there's a lot of people who, they're set in their ways, and you won't be able to break through in any way. And it's good to get their perspective and to understand their perspective, without the motive of trying to change them, for example. But yeah, it's it's I think it's very important. In summary.
Yeah, so I'm doing my job of keeping the discussion going. But if any one of you has anything to say about anyone else's thoughts, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about that. Shamala, do you have people in your circle who have very different views from you that you're able to have those discussions with, or do you seek them out in other ways?
Both. I have within my family, I come from a very large family, and I have some people who are slightly more on the conservative side. We generally, my family is very, very liberal, very progressive. But then in-laws, for example, we have more that are more conservative, and friends and such, friends of the family, that sort of thing. So I try to talk to them a lot, and I know my other siblings are also very, very engaged in politics in many different levels, and so we try to keep each other in check. Like my brother likes to play devil's advocate, and get the other perspective and then challenge me with that. And we love to debate just within our family. So, but on, there's a lot of, I'm definitely a bait taker on social media. You hear about bait takers. That's definitely me. The last election, I've gotten better about it since the last election. I try not to get so excited about it, but I like to try to engage with people, friends of friends, online, just to discuss and get their opinions, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have seen that balance of passion and listening. Like you're passionate doesn't mean that you don't listen to others because you have strong opinions. And I really appreciate that about you. And
thank you.
It's like everyone around here, I have I know that you have very strong ways, the way you think about politics, and they're completely different from each other. And for example, we have been discussing that politics is not about just about politics the way we think about it, and which is to Katie's point that she's involved in so many focused projects of making this world better. And by nature, she's a person who wouldn't aggressively confront like maybe I would or Shamla would. So it's just the nicer part of her personality, which also and everything, and which is this is the point, that which is fine as long as you have the level of awareness and you are somewhere on the grid. So we have like 3-4 minutes left. Anyone has any deeper thoughts or questions about what someone else said or anything exciting to say?
I actually had a quick question for the group. So as was just discussed, I am a little bit more on the quieter side and not as aggressive with my beliefs. I was wondering if anyone had like tips, tricks, or solutions for when you are talking to someone whose beliefs really differ from yours and they take a more aggressive stance on it, how to maintain a respectful conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that a big part of it might come from, rather than starting from a point of like, you're wrong and I'm going to try to convince you to agree with me, going for like the curiosity as to why, like what their life is like and why they think that way. And then just kind of asking questions and exploring it from like beginning from there.
That's a really great point, Carolina. Yeah. It's also I feel like part of the problem with discussions, especially on social media, is that you have that detachment with where you're writing things out and you don't get the tone involved. So it's one way to avoid things is to have discussions in person if you can. The other thing is always I feel like don't let it devolve into insults, that sort of thing. And to try to, as best you can, express that you are coming from that point of curiosity, not from I'm going to change your mind, that sort of thing. Like I'm right and you're wrong. Because it's if the thing I like to keep in mind when I'm discussing with people is that we all have the same goal in mind. We really, when it comes down to it, I mean, yes, there are of course going to be outliers in that, but basically we all want the same thing, and it's just how we have different opinions on how we get there. So if you approach discussions from that standpoint, I find it can be better, can be a little bit smoother. Yeah. So
I quickly wanted to say one thing on that, because I'm supremely opinionated and I'm not the most polite person, I know. But what I've learned over a period of time, because I work in a non-partisan organization, so we deliberately get people who disagree with each other in the same room, and we live with each other for a while. And what I've come to realize is that dialogue is a muscle. It takes time to build that muscle, and that's okay. So as someone who's very sharply opinionated and has to facilitate, I have learned to be kind to myself. That yes, I moved a step further in listening to them and actually coming from a space of curiosity, like Shamla was saying. And maybe next day I'll do better. Not just that they will do better or they didn't listen, but I will do better as a listener, and that's okay. So yeah, thinking of it as a muscle has really helped me quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'd also add, it's okay to disagree with someone and not support their viewpoints. And so you don't. When I was earlier in my career, I sort of felt the need to like smooth everything over and have everything, be like a nice conversation, and this person would think highly of me or nicely of me when we were done with the conversation. And that's largely dissipated because I think, we've mentioned a few times, there's going to be people that just don't hold the same beliefs that you do for a variety of reasons. And it's not always your job to find out why. Sometimes they can just disagree with you. I've gotten into discussions with people who don't think that my family should be here, who don't think that I should be doing what I'm doing, who don't think I should be working with 2 kids at home, right? Like, these are discussions that I've had. And I think if the person is willing to hear your viewpoint as well, then you can be willing to hear theirs. But if there's a conflict and they're just saying that you don't deserve to have the opinion that you have, that's when I respectfully shut it down, because I think there's a level, and if you can sustain a conversation where you can have that curiosity, and this person isn't denying your right to exist, that's a totally different. I'm talking about like when someone's sort of having these values that really invalidate who you are or what you're doing, and that's a different scenario. So I think also as women, sometimes it's like we want to have the conversation and just hope that this person likes us at the end. No, it's okay. Sometimes people are they're not going to be meant to like you or to have that conversation with you. And thanks for playing, hey, that was great. I got to exercise my muscle. Great. Thanks.
That's an excellent point, Yasmin, because I think part of it is, one, knowing when to disengage, like you were saying, and 2, knowing when it's not actually a conversation. That's the key. Sometimes it's not a conversation. Sometimes it's just somebody
spewing,
telling you, ranting and spreading toxicity into the atmosphere. You just have to know to shut it off and protect yourself from it by disengaging. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, all of you. Like I learned, especially the last question that Katie asked, I learned so much. Like, one, obviously, sometimes I want to be a nice person, and sometimes I'm just way too opinionated to, and then sometimes I don't know when to walk away. It's like, there is no point in talking to you when you know that. Just let it go. And thank you for asking that question, Katie. It was a really good question.
And sometimes can I add one more thing? Because I was going to.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes I don't speak up for the person that I'm talking to, but I speak up for the 5 people who are around them that are not thinking the same thing they are. And I'm not saying like in terms of an aggressive discussion, but sometimes I say, that's really interesting. I don't think I agree with you because I've had these experiences, or I've been exposed to this. Here's my cup of tea. So sometimes it's not for the person I'm speaking to, but it's for the other people that are around them listening.
Yeah.
So sorry, that's it. I'll shut it down.
No, please, anyone else, it's our space, our time. We can go on the rest of the day if you don't have to feed your kids or make some money, It's just
feed your kids or make some money. I love that.
I mean, those are the most important jobs that most of us have. So it's for many, it's either this or that, and saving the world, obviously. I mean,
if you've got time.
Yeah. For Himakshi, that's the main job, and everything else is maybe if I have money, I'll eat tomorrow, or maybe.
Oh my goodness. So amazing, Himakshi. That's amazing.
Yes, she is. She totally, completely is amazing. And thank you so much. And thank you for such a one. I know every one of us around here has very strong opinions, and we had such a beautiful, enjoyable, happy discussion and so many learnings.
Yay. Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
I feel like we have to say it's almost time for the election, so please, please, please go vote. Make your plan. There's yes. Hopefully you have your ballots for voting by mail. Make sure you do everything correctly and find out how it should be done. Early voting has started. Please go vote.
Yes, and if you're going to vote, make sure you carry your ID, make sure you know your address, make sure you know last 4 digits of your social security. And
Yes.
if you're voting by mail, not mailing by vote, voting by mail, then make sure that your signature is consistent.
Yes. And check all of the
And in all the places
the little idiosyncrasies of state by state, all the little requirements that you need. There's a lot.
There is a lot.
I was going to say I'm not going to vote because I can't, but I want to say, like, the world is counting on you, America, so do vote.
That's true.
Every vote does count. The last election showed that so clearly. In certain districts, it was just, it was this much, so we can't take that mentality of, my vote doesn't matter. It's not going to, I feel like in this election, it's so important. We can't take that mentality this time of it's this person's going to win, that person. It doesn't matter. It matters. Get your vote.
And what Himakshi said is correct. So we have Carolina joining from Argentina and Himakshi joining from India. And it's how we vote doesn't just decide the future of this country. It is, fortunately or unfortunately, it's the important country in the world, and it does influence how rest of the world progresses or doesn't progress for next few decades. So we have bigger responsibility than we realize. So
Very
vote
much.
and vote correctly and be aware of everything around you always.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to, obviously, just to declare when is our next live event is on November 18th, which is after the election.
Woo.
To-do. Dun, dun, dun. This one really had good music to it. And there we are. Thank you, ladies. And I am so proud of all of you for being my friends. I just, this discussion made me feel good about myself that, good job with friends.
Thank you, Purnima,
getting us together.
Yeah, and for providing this platform for
thank you.
And just the last thing, make sure you become, just to make all the political stuff and debates fun, enjoyable, and become friends with Yoselin.
Yeah.
Man, this is a lot of pressure.
I mean, I always think that it's my job. If I enjoy something and if something is benefiting my life, I have to share it with my friends. And I had to do it.
Well, thank you.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day, all of you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, you too. Thank you, Purnima.